Did we just discover the magic six-pack drug? After years of trying virtually every diet and training protocol out there, I finally found something that might be the closest thing to a get shredded cheat code we've ever seen. It's called retatrutide, and it's currently blowing minds in clinical trials. Here's the raw truth. In just 4 weeks, I dropped from 198 pounds to 183 pounds. That's 15 pounds gone in just 4 weeks. And my abs went from pretty much not visible to clearly defined six-pack territory. The craziest part is that I wasn't even trying that hard at all. While everyone else will be waiting years for FDA approval, I decided to be my own guinea pig. What I discovered wasn't just accelerated fat loss, it was something researchers aren't talking about at all. Complete freedom from food obsession and the ability to easily maintain a 1,500 calorie a day diet without feeling like I was in prison. And I'm not the only one seeing these results. Virtually every bodybuilder I know is currently using retatrutide, not just for their cutting phases, but for their lean bulking phases as well. Why? Because it gives them 100% diet adherence easily. No more fighting cravings or struggling to stay on plan, whether they're trying to get shredded for competition or build quality muscle without excessive fat gain. In the next few minutes, I'll break down exactly how this triple action compound works, why it might be the most powerful body composition tool we've seen yet, and the critical protocols I developed to maximize muscle retention while the fat melted away. This isn't another overhyped supplement video. This is a deep dive into what might be the future of physique enhancement. Let's get into it. Let's face reality for a second. Being over 40 means your body is actively working against you in ways you probably feel every single day. Your testosterone is dropping about 1 to 2% every year after age 35. It's like your body's natural anabolic system is slowly being turned down, making it harder to maintain muscle and easier to store fat. Meanwhile, your metabolism isn't what it used to be. That resting metabolic rate, or the calories you burn just by existing, is gradually down-regulating as you age. The same diet that kept you lean in your 20s now leaves you softer in your 40s. On top of that, insulin sensitivity is declining, meaning the carbs you consume are more likely to be stored as fat rather than being used efficiently by your muscles. And let's be honest, finding time for consistent workouts becomes exponentially harder with career demands and family responsibilities. This is my reality. I wasn't dealing with severe obesity, as you know, just normal middle-aged weight creep. I had probably let about 20 pounds come on since my last cut, and I really wanted to cut down before a vacation I'll be taking in about a week. So you know how it is. You look in the mirror and you wonder what happened to the guy that used to be, where you had visible abs year round. So my goal was straightforward, drop as much weight as I could before I went on vacation. But I wanted to do it without the typical struggle, the hunger, and the mental drain of conventional dieting. If you want to see how I did it in my last cutting phase, I'll put a link above to the last video. But this time I wanted a more efficient approach. Something that worked with my physiology instead of against it. But first, let's talk about why retatrutide is nothing like what we've seen before. We're not just looking at another incremental improvement in weight loss medications, we're witnessing an evolutionary leap. If you've been following the weight loss drug space, you've probably heard of Wegovy and Zepbound, which are good tools, absolutely, and a lot of people have had a lot of success on them. But retatrutide, well, this is different territory entirely. See, Wegovy, which is semaglutide, works by activating just one metabolic pathway, the GLP-1 receptor. It's like having a single key to unlock fat loss, and it delivers about 15% weight reduction over 68 weeks in clinical trials, which is not bad at all. Then came Zepbound, or tirzepatide, which added a second key by activating both GLP-1 and GIP receptors. And I'll explain what these mean at some point. This dual action approach pushed results to around 22.5% weight loss over 72 weeks in clinical trials. Now we're talking serious progress. But retatrutide, this is where things get wild. Retatrutide activates all three critical metabolic pathways simultaneously: GLP-1, GIP, and this is the game changer, glucagon. The result? An unprecedented 24.2% weight loss in just 48 weeks. That's more weight loss in substantially less time. So what exactly is happening in your body when all three of these systems are activated? Well, let me break it down. First, the GLP-1 pathway. When retatrutide binds to these receptors, it sends powerful satiety signals to your brain. It's literally telling your neural circuitry that you're full, even when you've eaten very little. Simultaneously, it's slowing down how quickly food moves through your system, so that feeling of fullness stays with you for hours longer than normal. Your brain is essentially being tricked into thinking you've consumed a much bigger meal than you actually have. Second, the GIP pathway. This is where the metabolic magic starts happening beneath the surface. When these receptors are activated, your entire body experiences a dramatic improvement in insulin sensitivity. What does that mean practically? Well, The carbohydrates you do consume are much more likely to be shuttled toward muscle glycogen rather than being stored as body fat. Your cells become hyper responsive to insulin, creating an optimized nutrient partitioning environment throughout your entire system. The third pathway, glucagon activation, is what truly separates Retta from everything else on the market. Unlike previous medications that only reduced calorie intake, retatrutide actually increases your metabolic rate. It directly stimulates the breakdown of stored body fat by signaling your liver to release fatty acids from storage. It's essentially turning up your body's fat-burning furnace even when you're completely at rest. This is something we've never seen before in a weight loss medication. When you combine all three mechanisms, you're getting what I call the metabolic triple threat. You're dramatically reducing calories consumed without relying on willpower or feeling deprived. You're completely re-engineering how your body processes and stores nutrients at a cellular level, and you're actually increasing the number of calories your body burns throughout the day, even during sleep. The synergistic effect of all three systems working in perfect harmony creates results that would be physiologically impossible to achieve through diet and exercise alone. We're not just talking about appetite suppression anymore. This is complete metabolic reprogramming. And that, in my experience, is exactly why the results I've seen have been so dramatic in such a short time frame. This isn't just another weight loss drug, this is an entirely new paradigm. Now let's talk about what actually happened during my experiment, which is still ongoing and 4 weeks have elapsed. Because the numbers don't lie. I started at 198 pounds with definition of my abs that was, seasonally appropriate, I guess, meaning I was in that perpetual state of I'll start cutting next month. 4 weeks later, I was standing on the scale at 183 pounds. That was just a couple days ago. That's 15 pounds gone in a single month. And here's what shocked me. When I looked in the mirror, I hadn't lost any appreciable muscle mass. The definition was there, the vascularity was there a little bit. What makes this even more remarkable is how little effort it took compared to previous cuts. In the past, getting to this level of leanness would have meant miserable hunger, energy crashes, and that constant mental battle with food cravings. But this time, it almost felt effortless. I'm actually planning to continue using retatrutide, but just ratchet up the calories, and I might dial down the dose as well at the same time. Why is this? Well, it just makes diet adherence so easy. It doesn't make me nauseous. I can still eat as much as I need to. I just make better choices when I'm doing it, and I'm not driven by cravings to eat the bad things. But I figure I can get to a level of stasis with using Retta where I'm eating clean and able to maintain my weight rather than just continually losing. But this concern about losing more weight than I intended, well, this is brand new for me and all because of Retta. I've never had to be concerned about this where I've had to consciously eat more because I was adhering too strictly to a diet. But let me share something crucial I discovered about dosing that you won't find in the clinical trials. The standard protocol for retatrutide in studies is a weekly injection of 1 milligram. After reading about side effects, I decided to try a different approach, basically microdosing with 0.3 milligrams every second day. The result was transformative. I experienced no negative side effects at all. If you're at all familiar with microdosing as a strategy, you won't be surprised that I avoided all the negative side effects like nausea. But obviously it took a bit longer for me to achieve serum concentration of the compound because you're not giving a giant bolus dose at the beginning, but you do achieve more stable serum concentrations over time because of the lack of fluctuation. Retatrutide has a 6-day half-life. So by injecting every second day, you're not letting yourself decline quite so far in between injections. So you are just generally more stable. It takes a bit more time to build up, but you are more stable. So that said, like right from my first injection, like within 24 hours, I was feeling the effects, feeling dramatically reduced appetite. And this is on a baby dose. Basically, clinical doses range upwards like beyond 10 milligrams a week, potentially. I can't even imagine being on that much. What I've heard from other people, bodybuilders taking it, is anywhere from 3 to 5 milligrams a week is typically where they're settling in for the appetite suppression effects. So I'm fortunate. I seem to be a hyper responder to this drug. I'm now in my 5th week of using it at 1 milligram a week, like I said, in 0.3 milligrams every second day. And I've only noticed a very, very tiny waning of the effect. And I'm not even sure if I can attribute that to the drug's effect waning on me or me just kind of getting bored and maybe having a little snack that I wouldn't have had in the first few weeks. But I'm still easily clocking at around 1,500 calories a day, which is, like I said, too little. My resting metabolic rate these days is about 2,900 calories a day. So it's dramatically too little. I know that. and I do intend to ratchet that up probably during my vacation, quite frankly. But I'm just really enjoying the effects right now, so I'm continuing with it. But like I said, I didn't experience any of the nausea during the first few weeks that one would expect getting onto a new drug, and you could probably chalk that up to microdosing. Other potential side effects are things like constipation, but you can probably overcome that with fiber supplementation. That hasn't been an issue with me. Gastrointestinal upset is a frequent side effect of drugs like these, including semaglutide and tirzepatide. And to some extent, I've had a bit of that, but it's been tough to tell if that is owing to the changes in diet, whereby I'm not eating as many carbs and fibers generally, or eating as much, period. Or if that is a drug side effect, but it hasn't been very upsetting at all, really. And another commonly cited potential side effect is fatigue, but I have not experienced any of that. And in all my sort of anecdotal casting about and talking to people and listening to people who have been taking this drug, they haven't experienced it either. So I'm still able to perform in the gym. I don't get tired during the day. I've really noticed, those side effects that you would typically have associated with hunger, feeling of desperation or just depressed energy levels. I've had none of that. But as far as my protocol goes, I want to emphasize something that's absolutely critical. You have to track your protein intake and probably your calorie intake while you're using retatrutide. I tried to stick with 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein, which would mean I'd need, roughly, let's say about 180 grams daily. I come close to this, but maybe don't quite hit it. But the appetite suppression is so strong that you will literally forget to eat enough protein or eat enough, period, if you're not tracking it. So it's not just a recommendation, it's a non-negotiable. If you want to preserve your muscle mass, you have to pay close attention. It's very similar to those people that lose the ability to feel pain. You have to take these other measures rather, to do things like, remind yourself not to touch a stove. Like if you couldn't feel a particular sense, in this case, hunger, you really do now need to pay attention to making sure you feed yourself, because your body's not going to remind you to feed itself. And it's not going to, if you're just eating enough to subsist, I reckon I could have got by on less than 1,200 calories a day for a good chunk of time there, which is absolutely crazy. Already 1,200 is way too little. But this is an experiment for me. And like I said, I'm going to ratchet it up. So along the same lines though, consistent strength training, like 3 to 4 times a week, is pretty much essential on retatrutide. Your body needs the stimulus to maintain your muscle while in such a dramatic calorie deficit. The studies that go along with these drugs do often find an associated lean muscle mass reduction. And, whether I don't think the drugs are inherently sort of catabolic themselves, catabolic meaning they eat muscle. It's most likely due to just rapid weight loss and the lack of protein and strength training to go along with it. That can definitely, as they say, it's sort of a skill issue, whether or not you retain muscle. And so while I do believe I've probably lost some muscle mass, I've probably mitigated a lot of that loss through strength training and protein supplementation at the same time. One thing I did notice is I was still hitting PRs. I was on a particular program that I'd been on for a few months. And actually, I referenced that in another video. This is my 1 set to max video that I'll probably put a link up there. I was still hitting PRs on that program well into the first month of this diet on Reta. So I don't believe it was affecting my strength and muscle mass dramatically, at least in those first few weeks. I've since changed programs. Bottom line is I maintained all my working weights during this experiment, which I believe, was key to preserving the lean mass while dropping the body fat rapidly. Let me tell you about something I wasn't prepared for, which is what I call the food freedom effect. This might be the most profound benefit of retatrutide, and it's something that clinical trials don't really capture in their data for obvious reasons, because it's, psychological. But here's what happens. You'll occasionally notice that like a food craving will arise. Like maybe you'll see a commercial for pizza or walk past a bakery. Like I walk by every day in my walks around town here, but then something totally strange occurs. The craving briefly appears and then completely vanishes, often within seconds. There's like no internal negotiation happening, no mental bargaining about whether or not you deserve a treat or you can fit it into your macros. The psychological power that junk food held over you just evaporates. This has been crazy for me. I can literally go into McDonald's and pick up a burger and fries for my daughter and not have a single fry, not even think about it, not order myself anything. The complete freedom from, like, I can be in a kitchen full of junk food, again, teenagers. This is what they eat a lot of the time. And there was a pack of Oreos on the counter for literally a whole week. I had 4 of those Oreos. I would have eaten half of that pack of Oreos in the first 12 hours, 6 hours. Who are we kidding? So it's been transformative, the freedom from those compulsions. If I get in my head that I want a particular baked good, there's like an apple cruller at a local coffee shop I go to, it's hard for me to stop thinking about having that. This is a problem, I know, but it's completely cut. It's like those circuits just don't even exist in my brain anymore. The dopaminergic kind of loops, those dopamine cycles, they've sort of been axed. And there's a lot of discussion around how this cuts not just cravings for food, but for alcohol, smoking, other type of things that trip that dopamine pathway. There's not any research into that, but anecdotally, a lot of people, their urge to consume more alcohol, let's say, or alcohol in general, things like that have been cut. And I barely consume alcohol anyways, so it's very hard for me to notice. I could go weeks without having a drink, so without even thinking. But definitely all the food noise is gone. Which has just been completely liberating. For someone who's spent just decades thinking about food throughout the day, like planning meals, calculating macros, like negotiating rewards for myself, like this mental liberation, like it's nothing short of revolutionary. Like the bandwidth that I freed up when I no longer have to think about like food all the time, like it's absolutely crazy and life-changing. It's like suddenly having extra hours in my day. And so the ability to easily maintain a 1,200 to 1,500 calorie diet, like without any psychological suffering, and I mean any psychological suffering, is something I've never experienced before. In my previous cut last summer, I was targeting 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day. And, that took some manual appetite suppression sort of methods, whether that's caffeine or other compounds. And I was also having to do cardio. It took a lot of effort to bring the weight down. And, I would stick at roughly at those 1,800 to 2,000, but then I would, maybe have a day where I blew over that. Now I'm well under that 1,800. And if I want to cheat, I'm maybe hitting 1,800 or 2,000 in a day, and that's a cheat day. I mean, that's just crazy. It's made diet adherence, it basically cuts all the emotion out of eating. You choosing what to eat is like as emotionless as filling out a spreadsheet, that's what I mean. It's diet adherence becomes just something you could do on autopilot without even thinking. You don't even want the bad stuff. And that's what's weird is often, when I do want to eat, I'm making a really dispassionate choice about eating the good food, the protein dominant food versus something bad. It's like all that, that devil on your shoulder that would otherwise cancel you to have had the sweet. It's just completely, that guy's gone. He's completely gone. He's off your shoulder. There's only the angel that's counseling you to eat the good things. It's been magic. In previous cutting phases, this level of caloric restriction would have felt like total torture. Just the constant hunger and irritability and the diminished cognitive function, especially. And the obsessive food thoughts. But like on retatrutide, it's just totally normal. Like I said, I'm not hungry. I'm not craving anything. I'm not suffering. I'm actually planning to increase my calories at some point while staying on Reta because the deficit has been so effortless that I've lost weight faster than I intended. And that's a problem I've never had before, like I said. So there's another benefit I wasn't expecting, which is enhanced productivity. I've noticed significantly improved focus and concentration since starting retatrutide. I'm experiencing longer sustained flow states while I'm working on complex tasks. It's as if the mental energy that was previously dedicated to thinking about food and planning meals, that sort of food chatter in your head, what we call sort of food noise, where, you're sitting at a desk, especially if you work at home and you got a fridge nearby, you're like, I deserve a snack. I should get up and have a snack. All of that is gone and it can be redirected to whatever I'm focusing on. I've developed 5 apps in the last month using Replit, of course. So it's just vibe coding, if anyone knows what that is, but just still really cool stuff. I've developed some apps for like, tracking my lab reports, also an app for tracking my supplementation. So a lot of fun. Anyways, all that productivity came from not having that food chatter in my head. Basically, I'm not constantly checking the time, like wondering when my next meal is. So this psychological freedom from the preoccupation of food has had ripple effects throughout my entire life in ways like I never anticipated. So there's an aspect of retatrutide that doesn't get enough attention, but it could be one of its most significant health benefits. That's its effect on liver health. I don't have any liver problems myself. I mean, I kind of shredded my liver a million years ago when I had a motorcycle accident, but if you know anything about the liver, it's one of those organs that can actually heal very well, unlike the kidney, and so it did heal back to 100%. But still, the clinical data here is stunning. So participants in retatrutide trials experienced an 82% reduction in liver fat after just 24 weeks. That's nearly double the effect of other weight loss medications. So why does this matter? Well, it's because your liver is essentially the command center for your entire metabolic system. When liver function improves, every metabolic process in your body becomes more efficient. So improved liver health translates directly to enhanced insulin sensitivity throughout your entire body. Your cells become more responsive to insulin signals, which means nutrients are more likely to be utilized efficiently rather than stored as fat. There's also a significant reduction in systemic inflammation when liver fat decreases. This has wide-ranging benefits beyond just weight loss, from cognitive function like we just mentioned, to joint health, to cardiovascular risk factors. So even if you don't have diagnosed liver issues like I don't, this optimization factor means your body will utilize nutrients more efficiently and regulate fat metabolism more effectively. The entire metabolic machinery simply works better when your liver is functioning optimally, and retatrutide seems to excel at creating this environment. Key takeaways and advice. Before I wrap up, just let me share some important disclaimers and practical advice based on my experience. First, retatrutide is not yet FDA approved. Eli Lilly is currently doing clinical trials with the FDA, obviously. I guess current projections suggest that approval could come in the latter half of this decade sometime. So we're talking 3 to 5 years from now. That timeline, of course, could change. My experiment represents self-directed personal research, and nothing I'm sharing should be construed as medical advice. I'm not a doctor. This is all just anecdotal. So always consult with a healthcare provider about weight management options appropriate for your specific situation. You know the deal. This is just a YouTube video for entertainment purposes only. Based on my experience, though, here are my top recommendations if you're considering something like this medication. First, consider the microdosing approach I outlined. That's, in my case, 0.3 milligrams every second day rather than a largely weekly dose. This dramatically reduced side effects for me to the point where I basically didn't have any side effects and certainly did not compromise results. What you want to kind of get aligned to is the lowest efficacious dose for yourself. So rather than starting out with a large bolus dose, like just assuming you need 3 to 5 milligrams a week, the best path for almost any drug, as we all know, is to wean up and to wean down. And actually, weaning down is something that's extremely important with something like retatrutide. If you cold turkey retatrutide, all your cravings will come back. You want to sort of wean down after you decide to come off it. I'm not at that phase yet, so I have nothing beyond that particular snippet to offer in terms of device there. But by microdosing, I allowed myself to find that minimum efficacious dose, like I mentioned. I didn't know that that would be 1 milligram a week. I thought I would have to just continually ratchet this up, and I may still have to. Over time, I may experience a bit of adaptation here, and I may have to ratchet it up, but I will still continue to microdose because that is just the best way to avoid negative outcomes, basically side effects. A friend of mine, he takes a single dose before going on vacation, so like a larger bolus dose, like he might do 1 milligram, 2 milligrams, 3 milligrams, whatever he's doing on the Monday before he leaves for a week-long vacation, knowing that that sort of half-life of the drug, which is 6 days, as I mentioned, is going to cover most of his week-long vacation. So that would be another way of potentially doing it. I haven't had to do that. I will pack this with me on vacation. Another recommendation, track your protein intake religiously. I can't emphasize this enough. The appetite suppression is so powerful that you will unintentionally underconsume protein. I mean, really everything, unless you're tracking it. You got to still aim as close as you can to 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight at a minimum. I know that's very tough to do when you're dealing with extremely low calorie counts. Believe me, I know. But you really need to prioritize protein even more than normal if you're going to do something like this. On that same vein, maintain consistent strength training throughout your Reta experience, if that's what you choose to do. I mean, this provides the necessary stimulus for your body to retain that muscle mass while shedding fat. You should be getting into the gym 3 to 4 times a week and hitting your major muscle groups just as a baseline. Obviously, the more the better. You know, the gym is a non-negotiable as well. Another big one, embrace and enjoy the mental freedom from food obsession. For me, this is life-changing. This is probably the most valuable benefit of all in from my perspective. It's completely rewritten the paradigm of how I view food. It's made food a thing I use only for sustenance and only when I need it and only in the most strategically beneficial way possible. My mind is not dominated with thoughts of cravings. I'm not feeling acute hunger pangs. I just move about my day doing what I need to do and feed myself in the most strategically beneficial way, in the most dispassionate, just selecting food for their nutritious value, rather than thinking, oh, I deserve a treat, or I should get up and go check the fridge, and I should have a little snack, and maybe can I fit this little thing into my diet today without blowing my diet? It's been absolutely freeing. So enjoy that. And the ability to focus on other aspects of your life, you know, without constant food thoughts intruding is just pure magic. And lastly, if you're looking for currently approved alternatives, while Reta works its way through the FDA pipeline, you obviously can consider things like Wegovy, which is semaglutide, and Zepbound, which is tirzepatide. Again, as I mentioned, while these are not as comprehensive as retatrutide's triple action approach, they're backed by significant clinical data, and they're available through legitimate medical channels like your doctor. For those wanting to dive deeper into the science behind retatrutide, I highly recommend checking out my friend Vigorous Steve's videos. He's done 2 comprehensive deep dives on this compound. He gets into all the pharmacological nitty-gritty, some of the drug interactions that are known at least. He is an absolute treasure of a resource. I've known him for a few years. I've visited him in Thailand. We've done blood tests together. We've gone to dinner together. If you don't follow him, you should already. He's amazing. I'll put the links to his videos on Reta either on the video up here or in the description below. Like I said, he's been an invaluable resource for me over the years, and he provides fantastic evidence-based fitness and supplementation advice. So to sum up, this experiment has fundamentally changed how I think about metabolic optimization. The triple action approach of retatrutide represents a genuine breakthrough. I can't wait for everyone to get their hands on this drug. It will absolutely change everybody's approach to eating, and hopefully in a favorable way for our obesity epidemic, you know, not just weight loss, but for like the mental clarity and the metabolic health it also offers. I'll be continuing this journey and sharing what I learn as I progress. If you found this valuable, hit that subscribe button for updates on my continuing experiments, or drop your questions in the comments and let me know which aspects of this you'd like me to explore deeper in future videos. Until next time, stay ahead of the curve, and thanks for watching.